Hey everyone, welcome back to all my listeners. This is episode 4 in season 12. Today is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. My name is Sonal Patel, and this is the Paint the Medical Picture podcast series. Now, all right, you guys, it's that time again. Today's Newsworthy is going to be featuring my new Spotlight series on my guests. And today, I'm going to be rolling out that red carpet once again and shine my spotlight on Keisha Wilson and her journey. And of course, all of our trusty tips and recommendations are peppered throughout our conversation today. This episode is sponsored by Advanced Coding Services. Let's get into it. Today's episode is sponsored by Advanced Coding Services, a leading medical billing and medical coding school in the United States. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned professional, our training equips you with the tools and support you need to advance your career. Our medical billing and coding school meets your needs worldwide online or in person with one-on-one support throughout your training. We are committed to helping our alumni and credentialed medical community in keeping up their certifications by offering various avenues for acquiring your continuing education units. In addition to our Mastering the Business of Medicine retreats, offered several times throughout the year in different parts of the country, we now offer memberships. You can conveniently earn your CEUs by attending our exclusive members-only webinars. Since our aim is to nurture and grow the careers of individuals who work in the business of medicine, we call our member area the Apple Orchard. Advanced Coding Services, educate, nurture, inspire, reaching back with a hand up. All right, everybody, here I am once again with another Spotlight feature on Paint the Medical Picture podcast. This is season 12, episode 4, and I am rolling out that red carpet for a good friend of mine, Keisha Wilson. This is her first time coming onto the podcast. So welcome, Keisha. It's so good that you're on today.
Thank you so much, Sonal, for having me on. It's a pleasure. I always listen, so to be featured is amazing. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Absolutely. You and I have been going back and forth over these past couple of years. Yeah. So to see each other face to face, I have not been able to attend the larger APC conferences this past year where I know you've been featured speaking. So I'm glad that we can connect face to face, at least here on the podcast.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. So let me just go ahead and read a little bit to my audience your amazing biography, your background. So this is Keisha Wilson. She is the founder and CEO of KW Advanced Consulting. She's also a seasoned professional with over 20 years of experience in the healthcare field. Her career in large teaching hospitals as well as acute ambulatory care systems includes roles such as an outpatient coding specialist, a clinical documentation improvement or CDI specialist, as well as compliance operations coding and billing manager roles, interim compliance director roles, as well as, of course, consultants to various coding companies. Now, her extensive experience is a testament to her leadership and deep understanding of this industry. Keisha is not only a subject matter expert in compliance and revenue cycle management, but she's also a dedicated educator and a trainer. She excels in risk-based audits, retrospective, prospective, evaluation and management types of audits, as well as auditing and coding of multi-specialty, including documentation reviews, as well as coding for telehealth and telemedicine services, risk adjustment, HCC provider and coder education training, and webinars. My goodness, she does so much. Keisha has developed and implemented numerous compliance documentation and coding training programs for organizations of all sizes. She's an approved instructor for KW Advanced Consulting. She's also an adjunct instructor for the American Academy for Professional Coders, that's the AAPC, as well as teaching a wide range of compliance and coding courses. Now, her dedication to sharing her expertise extends well beyond her professional roles. She serves on the board of directors for an outpatient mental health clinic, Bravo, and she actively participates in various telehealth and compliance committees. She's, of course, a well-known published author. I love to read her materials. She regularly contributes coding articles for KW Advanced Coding Consulting, keeping the industry updated with the latest developments. Her collaboration with the AAPC editors on various primary care coding alerts and AAPC magazine. This is a testament to her commitment to advancing the field. Now, that's just a brief bio over these past 20 years, but my goodness, Keisha, you have had an incredible journey. So kudos to you. Bravo.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hearing it sometimes it's like, wow, I did all that. Like, when did the time pass?
Exactly. When someone reads you the biography, it's rather incredible, right? Because you don't realize how much you've actually made an impact on the industry. And so, I know I've only known you for a couple of years, and here we are for the first time face to face. You do make a tremendous impact. You yourself alone in the industry, as well as now with your company helping providers and entities. So I think you have a lot to share with the Paint the Medical Picture podcast audience in terms of, your journey. How did you actually get started, right? Because this was 20 years ago. And I know when I bring my guests on, they think they can immediately become a Sonal Patel, a Keisha Wilson, and they can just do it from day one and start the ground running that way. But as you and I both know, it doesn't go that easily in the very, very start. So I would love to hear some of your insights on what it was you did in the very beginning to help you propel and go forward in your journey.
So it's funny enough that my long journey in healthcare started, I think, when I was about like 15 or 16, working at front desk in an outpatient mental health facility, processing patients, checking authorization, anything that they had needed. Someone was out sick, verifying insurance for testing, I did. And I always say it's funny. I told them at HealthCon as well on the panel that 26 years later, I'm back on their board of directors. So you never know where that journey will take you. I didn't know when I was like 15, 16 then that years later that I would be on the board helping them make decisions. And they have expanded from like a basement in Crown Heights now to like 8 different locations. So I would say that started it. But interesting, that didn't start my journey in coding. That started my peak in social work. So a lot of people don't know that I actually went to school to be a social worker. I did my undergrad in human services. I got into a master's program for social work. And then someone came into an office one day where I was working front desk at neurology and was like, hey, do you know about medical coding? And I was like, oh, no, I mean, I've seen billings, but what is that? Tell me more. And she did. And she gave me the information for the school. I called them the next day, looked up information, and they had an opening that Saturday, which was like 2 days later. And I went and I was like, sign me up. I love this. So, of course, I decided not to pursue social work and to pursue coding instead. I don't think my mother loved that at that point in life, but I really enjoyed it. And, it was fast paced. It wasn't easy. Coding is not easy. It takes a lot of dedication. That's what I always tell people and tell my students now. You have to dedicate the time to perfect your craft and where you want to go and where you see yourself. So I said, I paid all this money. I am going to do this. And at the time I was going to the class, it was in person. So I would finish work, drive like an hour and a half to 2 hours, sit, and we're getting out of class like 9:30, 10, and then driving home. So that was in Queens. I'm in Brooklyn. But that showed the dedication then. I didn't really go out. I just studied. And so friends would tell you now that we didn't see Keisha for a long time. Because after graduation, I was just focused on taking the test. And from that, I was lucky enough, the hospital I was working with opened up a new department, a coding pool.
Wow.
And that allowed me to work in multi-specialty. So that's where, like, some people may not be comfortable with multi-specialty. That was my journey from the beginning. And I always, like I mentioned on the panel, I never said no. If there was a new project, yes, I want to learn that. And then I'm taking the book and I'm taking a deep dive into where I want to go. But to take a step back, when I did the coding course, I loved the evaluation and management section. Once I got there, I was like, oh, this is nice. Like, how can I make a career out of this section here? And I spoke to the instructor, and he was like, compliance is the way to go. And I said, great, I'm going to research. So I researched and I saw what it took. They wanted at least maybe 3 to 4 years of coding experience before, and you have to have certain certifications like the CPMA to work in compliance. So I said, okay, great, I'm going to work my way there. So in the interim, I worked, I coded, I took on every assignment. While I was working there, I was doing part-time at night, doing social work. I was finishing up, I think I probably already had my bachelor's then. Yes, I did. Okay, because I remember I said I didn't go finish the master's program for social work. So I did that, and then I went into compliance. Once I hit the mid mark, my boss at the time, my director, I kind of told her what I was looking to do, and I went in an interview and I got the job, the position. I remember that boss that day when I came in, because I always say you want to dress for the role that you want, not for the role that you're in. And I went suited up. I researched the organization, everyone that worked there. And I remember the first day she saw me, she was like, that's how I want compliance to be represented. And I thought that was so impactful, and it just is a testament where it's, besides the mindset, you have to put it on. Like, you just have to wear the role that you want. And I think that's important. So I worked in compliance. I did various roles, CDI. I worked on routine audits as well. And everyone that works in compliance know that we're not always loved. If you're on the elevators, you kind of turn your ID around because everyone's kind of looking to see where you work, or you walk down the hall and they're like, compliance is coming.
That's right.
And from that journey, I went into management. I knew, what was interesting is that when I did coding, I always had colleagues like, oh, you have a degree, but you don't really need a degree in coding, because not, you can finish with a GED or maybe even not. But I knew I wanted more. I always knew I wanted more for my life, and I saw more. Nothing against those that love coding, because there's some that just love the coding. But I knew I wanted more, and I wanted management, and I wanted leadership, and I knew you needed that to get there.
Yep.
So when that opportunity came about, I dove head first, but I took on those experience. Even in compliance, whatever they needed assistance with, creating job aids or whatever, educating. And one thing I would say is that the CDI roles, the physician educator roles, those teach you how to communicate with physicians and have these skills. And so this is where the social work skills kicked in. Those soft skills that I thought disappeared when I didn't do social work, apparently, and I didn't realize I had them, as people pointing them out, that they realize that there's a certain amount of people attending educations when I do webinars at the hospital, or the physicians are really listening, or they're saying, I really don't like compliance, but I will listen to you because of your tone and your approach.
That's right.
And I think that's important. And then from there, the compliance role, the leaderships went on, and I continued to do consulting in the evening. And it was a friend that told me, why don't you bet on yourself and do this for yourself? And sometimes it takes others seeing certain things in you that maybe you don't necessarily see in yourself right away, or you don't think you have it all to do it. And, that a light bulb went on. I did research. I put it on a vision board because I believe in painting the picture, right?
That's right.
Having the vision, making it clear. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And then in 2022, I created the LLC and said, yes, this is what I'm going to do. And maybe like a few weeks later, my corporate role decided just to take a different turn in where they saw the department. And sometimes you question yourself, like, wait, I worked all this way to get to this point, but I realized, very faith-based, that God had other plans. And it allowed me to take care of my mom, who was sick at the time, and take her to all her appointments and figure out the business and build it out. And it's interesting. When it comes to business, you may not know it all. Working in corporate, where you have an organization running certain things versus you running every aspect for yourself, is not easy. So I always tell people, like, yeah, I'm gonna go on my own, and I'm like, it takes a lot. I've read a lot of books. There's still sleepless nights, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of guidance, questioning those who may be in business for a long time, asking them how do they do it, signing up for programs, doing a lot of stuff initially for free, but realizing, no, you bring value, and now getting to do what I love in compliance and on my 20 years of journey and creating it in the business has been amazing. So I'm super thankful for the opportunity that I get to share with everyone daily, and they allow me to come into their lives however they may be, social media or the podcast, listening to you. I'm thankful. So that's a little bit of the journey. I'm sure I missed so much, but
I'm sure you missed a little bit in there, but I think you gave the audience tons of nuggets of your wisdom based on your experience, based on your path. So, while you were speaking, I was listening really closely, as I always do with my guests. So, you provided a lot of insight when it comes to people who are trying to enter this field, trying to get their foot in the door, even if they're a young person, if they're in their early 20s, or they're transitioning into this field as their second or third careers, perhaps. They're still going to be new. So a lot of your wise words are very, very applicable. I loved hearing you talk about, when you're interviewing, when you have that opportunity to go for an on-site, in-person interview, I still believe in 2024 that you need to dress the part, right? So even if you're new, you're young, you don't really know what the field is all about, embrace this opportunity that was given to you with the interview process. And I do believe today, people in the hiring positions want to see that elevation of the person just by what they're dressed in, right? A suit and tie, a dress, a blazer, proper shoes, you know what I mean? All of that really is impactful. That professional demeanor, look the part, and especially like you had stated, it was a role in compliance, right? And you made an impression on that person who had the power of hiring. So, I think that's a really, really good pro tip. I know I've talked about my own experience when I started in this industry. It was technically my second career, right? So I was much older. I was not a new youngster anymore. I was fully grown, already had a first career, but my resume did not read like a science business resume. It read like a liberal arts, art historian resume. And I just couldn't see the dots. I couldn't see the path. I just kept trying to sell my wares with this very outdated resume that didn't help in what I was trying to achieve in my second career, right? So things like that really need to be looked at closely for people who want to transition into the medical coding, auditing, compliance field. So I think you had a lot of really good insights there in terms of what other certifications you might need if you're going to make that additional leap into compliance, like your CPMA for auditing is definitely a great certification to obtain, because that will show your chops in the fact that you know how to audit various specialties, not just one thing. You definitely can have a favorite, like your favorite was E&M back before the new 2021 guidelines, which is surprising because that's when I kind of was standoffish with the old 1995 and 1997. I much prefer E&M today. I love it today.
Me too.
And I loved all of my surgery in my original passions was all surgery, general surgery, neurosurgery. Oh, I loved it all. I still do, but that was my original passion for the multi-specialty stuff. It was all surgical, plastic surgery, all of the bariatric stuff. Loved all of that. But so it's amazing and fascinating how in the longevity of a journey, your passions can also pivot and change, depending on what line of work, what transition you've made within the organization, what new position you're able to obtain in an organization and things like that. So I think it's really, really remarkable that you've shared with the audience this wealth of experience that you've been able to have in Brooklyn, and then traveling back and forth to the various places to show your not only hunger but your aptitude to just continue succeeding. Like, just get the position, do really, really well despite the travel you'd have to do back and forth. When you start the position, that's another great pro tip is stay hungry and just go after it. Don't feel like you have to stay small. You should go after it for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what some people, I don't know if they get a little nervous or hesitant and they're like, okay, good, I got this role. I can stay here for the rest of my life. And that's okay as well. But I always feel like we're never too old or to stop learning, to stop growing, to stop setting goals. My mom and I had this discussion on the drive like 2 weeks ago. Like, what is the vision that you see for yourself? Life happens, health happens, maybe death happens in families, and that doesn't mean you stop visioning. And okay, so maybe your goals just have to change a little bit. Maybe you just have to pivot a little bit, but you should never stop. And I always try to encourage people that I hope that my life is a testament of that, because I always wanted to keep going. Each certification, I'm sure like you, is always intentional. Whichever role I'm in at the moment, I want to understand it and perfect it and be that expert. So I always, besides taking a course, because you can only learn but so much in a course. I am huge. I told them that at HealthCon, I say it in every class. I think my students know I changed my middle name to research. Research is the biggest thing, and is what set you apart from others, especially like when we were chatting earlier about physicians wanting to know the source of where you got something. It's never Keisha said, compliance said, is the source. I'm going to send a link. I'm going to have millions of links because I'm just not going to one. And so I think for new coders or people that have been coding for a long time and looking to pivot to a new specialty or a new certification, do the research. Look on multiple sites, have conversations. I know people ask us different questions in our direct messages about how did we get here? Where did we go? I always say compare courses, compare organizations. Even if you're looking to take a course as me and someone else, research. You don't have to just go with me right away. I know one student recently said, we spoke back and forth for like 5 months. And I wasn't pushy. I said, take your time. I'm always here. When you're ready, you know where to find me. But I'm excited for anyone that's looking to elevate their career. and elevate their education, because it wasn't always an opportunity, right, for everyone. So
Right.
we have to do our best and then encourage the youth and everyone else.
Mhm.
So that, I'm excited about that.
That's right. That's really well said because you and I were having a conversation offline before we came in. Absolutely. This field is full of the types of personalities that love and embrace research and higher education, continuing education. That really is something that needs to be looked at closely when you're entering this field. It's not just a job. It's not just I'm sitting on a desk from 9 to 5 and I'm gone, right? Even if your role in the beginning is a medical coder and you are simply abstracting the information from the medical charts and you're typing in those 5 keystrokes onto the claim forms and sending it out, do not just consider that as a just role. I'm just a medical coder, right? We need to eliminate that very diminishing word, just,
Yeah.
because I truly believe the medical coder embraces much more compliance than they actually know, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're in that training program, that first education to become a medical coder, that compliance piece is not necessarily stressed, in my opinion, as much as it should be, because the robust certified medical coder is an amazing compliance professional because they embrace it right at the beginning, because it really is all about that research going above and beyond, like you stated, like we talked about offline. Our providers, our practitioners want us to show them the proof, right? The proof's in the pudding. They
Yeah.
want to know where it is. And so it's our job now at this stage in our career as consultants, we have to provide them where that guidance comes from. It's not just Sonal says this and
Mhm.
Keisha says that, and that's the end all be all.
Right.
No, we have to provide them the federal regulation. We have to provide them with the reimbursement policy for that particular patient,
Mhm.
for that specific service line. So I think we need to absolutely embrace the compliance aspect of what a certified medical coder does, and I think that's our messaging
Yeah.
going forward. Right? Is that they are incredible people who really, really do embrace continuing education and wanting to really dig into the weeds, read all of the data,
Mhm.
read all of the documentation, all of those PDF files, all of the final rules, right? We are the types of people that really want to continue reading so we can provide our providers with accurate information backed up with the actual sources. So yeah, that's a great piece that you've brought out in today's conversation. Absolutely. A coder is much more than quote unquote just a coder.
Yeah, I think 100%. And there's a few things when you were saying that, like the lights were going off. Initially, when you introduced and you said, you were, and I appreciate you thanking me for all the work, but I know it's not just me, it's you and it's so many others. It's like a team. And so
Mm-hmm.
as you're talking about quarters, they're part of a team. It's
Yeah.
bigger than just that word just, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are a part and you're like the bridge between the physician and the biller and
Mm-hmm.
compliance. Like you're seeing a lot. I think it's important now as instructors, as we teach new coders, that we let them know that aspect and how important it is. I know there was a student recently and she's like, that first few chapters in coding is like welcome to medicine and you're going over all the compliance portion of it and Stark laws and stuff. She was like, "And are we going to work for the FBI?" And I was laughing. So as you're talking, I'm hearing her in my voice, and I'm like, "No," but the next two chapters, when we start talking about billing, your role is so important. What you're
Mm-hmm.
processing, what you're seeing, because now
Yes.
you are liable for what you click those 5 keystrokes and send it out. It has to be correct. And so as we start going through the chapters, it's like all making sense. When we talk about the recent breaches that they had in healthcare, you know, I introduced that at the first chapter. I'm like, I want you guys to do some homework and research that, because this will all make sense. So I think that's so important that we just remember that together we are better. And it's not just this role, but so many people I think have been conditioned like that from the beginning, that they feel like it's an 8 to 4, 9 to 5. I'm just clocking in, minding my business. That's it. I don't want to know anything. But then that doesn't really get us anywhere. I think once you do the research and say, you know, this is not just a job, it's a career. And I think it starts with the mind and shifting of the mind and pivoting of the mind. But you see a difference in the work and with the environment and the learning, whether it's virtual or in person. And then you see a difference in the quality of work. And then you have less of us coming in trying to, well, not really educate, but education never stops. But it makes our role easier when people are willing to learn. And the research part, again, I can't stress that enough. That is super important. And I know you said that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Keisha, for sure, 100%. Wow. Yeah, your insights today with my audience, I hope they can glean a lot more out of this really enriching conversation. That there's so much more to medical coding, right? There's so much more that goes into the actual journey of trying to get into this really complex healthcare industry that we have here in the United States. And it's only becoming more and more scrutinous as the years go on, as you and I both know in the compliance field. It's 2024 and things are only becoming more heightened. There's a lot of eyeballs that are going on when it comes to the actual claims forms in conjunction with that medical documentation. And so it's across the gamut from our commercial payers as well as, of course, the government payers. So, yeah, there's a lot more I think that needs to be taught from the various coding schools in the very, very beginning than what you and I learned yesterday, right? Many moons ago, I think the curriculum has to change with much more, like I love how your program stresses compliance in the first 2 chapters, right? Not all programs do that. I love that there are places where that level of those certain fraud, waste, and abuse laws are touched on right in the beginning of the education process. I think that's really fundamental. So, yeah.
It is. Like all roads lead to compliance and back to compliance. So we might as well all be compliant together.
Exactly right. We might as well all be compliant together. Absolutely. That is well said. That is well said, Keisha. Now, I know our conversation has to end here at some point, but is there any way that I can bring you back in the future so you can share with the audience specifics on your expertise? So we can shine some light on that. Yeah.
Yes, there's so much.
There's so much, right?
So much, yes. There's so much happening in compliance and telehealth and committees all around and speaking on it. So, you know, anytime I would love to. It's an honor.
Good. I would love that. I would love to have you back because I would love to dig into your specific expertise. What is going on? What could you share with the audience? But in the meantime, is there a place where I can put up here on the screen for where folks in the audience may be able to find you? Perhaps your website, your LinkedIn profile, anything like that I could be able to share with the audience today?
I always say I am everywhere you guys are. So I am on LinkedIn. I have a personal page, a business page, as well as the website is kwadvancedconsultant.com.
There
Yeah,
it is.
there it is.
Awesome. There
And
is your beautiful website.
yeah,
Great.
various social media platforms. So once you go to the website, you'll find me everywhere.
Awesome. All of your YouTube and Instagram and Facebook everywhere. Okay,
Yes.
let me put up your banner for
And
LinkedIn.
painting the earth with KW.
Exactly. Everybody needs to get involved with KW. Absolutely. And this
And
is your
it's
personal.
funny, paint the medical picture. I was an art major in high school. So
See?
I love like your website is like artsy. It's
Yeah.
me. I'm like, this is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yes, yes. Yeah, so just because I transitioned into healthcare doesn't mean I left my original passion far behind, right?
Yeah,
I found a way to combine it. Okay, and this is your business page on LinkedIn.
it
Love
is.
it. Love it. So the audience can find these links as well in my show notes. Um,
Awesome.
so yes, Keisha.
And
Now,
we'll talk more about how our past, right? The arts has helped with the business because I design all
exactly.
my stuff. So it comes back. These gifts come back in a different form.
That's right. Yeah, I would love to hear more about that. Exactly, because that's why we go back and forth so
Yeah.
often on a daily basis. We can tell the actual art person who's creating their own things versus who is not, right?
Right.
So I think it's really, really special that there are folks like you and I out there that embrace both that softer side, the art side. Like you said, those people soft skills are critical
Yeah.
in healthcare as well. But I especially love the fact that you and I both still keep up with the art skills in addition to this healthcare stuff and consulting and compliance. And
And
yeah,
this whole wall is paintings. That's how I
yeah,
created it.
exactly. Oh my goodness, Keisha. I love it. I love it. Well, before we go today, is there anything you'd like to leave? Any final words for my audience that we didn't get to talk
I would
about?
say first I want to thank you again for having me on. This has truly been a pleasure and honor because I listen. And I would just say I know we're approaching June, but we still have 6 months left to set goals. So don't be discouraged. Set some new goals. Say, okay, I have 6 months. Get that new certification, or if it's just something in life you want to do, travel, ride a bike, drink more water, whatever it is. I would say just write the vision and then watch it come to light, and be your biggest cheerleader. And know that we're cheering you on. We really are.
That's right. Beautiful. We are cheering you on. I love those final words, Keisha. Goodness.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for being here with us today. I love it.
Truly a pleasure.
I'll see you again soon.
Yes.
So that wraps up today's episode. And as always, I appreciate you all diving into today with me. If you want more information from me, please go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn. I'll leave links to everything in the show notes below. Now remember to go ahead and catch my LinkedIn live broadcast with my good friend and colleague Betty Hovey on this Friday's Compliance Capers. In this fireside chat, we're going to be discussing another OIG integrity agreement, this time involving a pharmacy. Now you can also catch it live on my YouTube channel for Paint the Medical Picture. Now, I wish you guys all an amazing and very happy and hopefully much shorter week as you celebrate the long weekend ahead. Thank you all so much for listening in on today's very special episode, and I hope every week with me brings you closer to helping your providers paint a masterpiece. See you next Wednesday.